Hello, how you guys doing? I'm back with another video. Um, I'm gonna probably take a break and kind of. Usually I comment on other people's videos. In the last couple, 4 or 5 videos, I've been making comments and on my own experience. And sometimes but I just want to share some things with you that continually on how the relationship between black and white, from my experience, has really, you know, taken its course in ways. And it don't apply to all people, but some people, it disturbs the subconscious. I'm gonna give you another story about one time I was in Cincinnati, and I stayed on the outskirts of a little town called Coleraine, Ohio. When I first moved to Cincinnati, it was back in 2000, back in early April 2000, April and May 2000. When I lived in little area called Madisonville. Then I went from Madisonville to, a couple of years I moved over to Mount Airy, and it was kind of like I didn't stay there too long because it was a filthy building, and they didn't even take care of it. And I had to kind of use legal work to get up out of it to move to Coleraine. My Cincinnati experience with hidden racism with some neighbors that I had to live next door to in Coleraine. I was only the black gentleman in the building. There was a woman whose boyfriend was black that was in the building. Mostly white people, and and it was in the other building like 1, 2, 3 other black individuals. But so sometimes I come out and I talk with my neighbor, have the neighborly talk, and of course he tells me he grew up around that area and his experiences, high school and things like that. And one time, during his high school years, he got jumped by some black boys. It was a white guy, and felt bad, that this experience happened. That someone jumped on him. What's wrong with whoever jumped on somebody? It is wrong. But this time, he has some resentment about that, because later on, being around one time he was away at work, and so me and his wife was having a talk about him. And one thing that's standing out, that she was saying that even though she have a baby with him now, at one point she dated a black man, and he never got over it. He never got over it. And she told me this. He threw it up in her face every time they get into the argument. So how could you? They were one of those people. Mind you, he put on a good front and face in front of me. He put on a good face. And I'm like, wow, that's kind of shocking, because I didn't think Eric would be like that. Another time, he was friends with the neighbor that was over me, a white guy, that he was having company in and out of his house, and they was nothing but his buddy, nothing but white guys there, and they were just being a hood rat like some of us. I mean, smoking, drinking, being loud. Was disturbing the other neighbors. One time, the one neighbor boyfriend, who was black, had to ask him to come down. Can you please keep it quiet? And the guy got upset and called him the N-word. And then when people say that people take up for each other, because even the neighbor between me and Eric was another white guy, and he of course he took up for the guy upstairs that was making all the noise and blah 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 and da da da. So that Kerry's a good guy, but I know Kerry, because I can hear him rumbling and bumbling and stuff like that. So the landlord asked him to leave. And even though, when I first moved in, the landlord probably thought I was going to be one of these black people who's going to bring in that company, because he was looking for, when he looked at me moving in, he was kind of really looking at me with suspicious eyes. And I'm like, why is he, I try to keep my place up and so it wouldn't look too messy or anything like that, just to give me any excuse not to get at me. I try to stay in his grace of her face. But yeah, that was one of the times that when I was in Cincinnati. This is the part about hidden racism that people don't talk about. Some people, they can down with you. I went to the batting range with them. I would never expected this until one day, and so I kind of pulled back from that, because okay, that was in the past. She dated a black guy. Her ex-boyfriend was a black man, but she didn't have no babies with no black man. So why is it that it's a big difference? But it really disturbed him to this. It probably still. I don't think that if they together to this day. That might it'd be a miracle if they still married. Because every time he would kind of get into an argument, he'd throw that up in her face. This is so when people say, people are people, or really, it depends on what kind of people are you around that see people as people. Because one guy, this is gonna really trip you out. I should have cussed this guy out at the time, but I didn't do that. He was inebriated. He said, "Hey, man, come over and have a drink with me." He had some figurines at the time from it was some movie. It happened to be this character was a black character, and he called him his little nigga. When he said that, I walked out, never talked to him again. Another incident while I was over in Kentucky, and it was a white guy over there, and he seemed pretty cool. Just I would walk past and had chit chat with him. But one day, his cat, he had a black cat. Guess what he called the cat? The N-word. Because the cat, I don't know, the cat scratched him or pissed or did something. He peed on him and got mad. He was a black cat. He called him the N-word. So when I mention things like this is being around white people who say things like this. They ain't say how the way we say in the N-word. They say it the way they say the N-word. When they get into disagreeing with a black person, it gets heavy and heated. But yeah, he called his own pet, a black cat, the N-word. That's why I said racism is it is so entrenched in some people that they even use it. When I say they describe it, they describe it. It rolls off of time of the lips. And that was my time. And then one time, when I was living in Kentucky, I was just going over and looking at it. I think I was looking at an apartment or looking at something over there. Went to this place called Dayton, Kentucky. You hit it like a Dayton, Ohio. There's a little town called Dayton, Kentucky. It's not too far down from Newport. So, I get out the car and I was looking for it. I don't know what I was looking for, an address. And this guy motioned to this other guy across the street, and I heard it from a distance. Yeah, there's an N-word in the neighborhood. I said, wow. Let's just say I turned around and get up out of there. This isn't like, in Dayton, Kentucky, you have Newport, Kentucky, you got Covington, Kentucky. And it's like Dayton, Kentucky is like a couple miles down on the road. So this was in northern Kentucky. Another time I heard the N-word was I was going with a group of guys who were coming back from a trip. This is what some white guys do. And they were saying something, and he was a big old country and smelly, knuckle dragon beast looking dude. Had a conversation about something. I wasn't trying to pay attention. It was none of my business, but I'm ride. You know how you ride with them in the van. She used the N word on the way out when I think we was going to go pick up some vehicles. So throughout my life, I've heard the N word, nothing the N word, and in the workplace, where I lived at, what places I live, so people have hidden biases. So this was, this is the true story. And I stayed down in Cincinnati in the northern Kentucky area from 2000 to like 2007 and 2006, I believe, 2000, almost 2007. And that's when I moved up here to Columbus. But yeah, there's some pockets of racism out there. One time I went staying down there, I was about to rent an apartment called Erlanger, Kentucky, and it was when I went to go inquire about the apartment, the guy said it was already rented. Clearly, it wasn't rented because it was still back in the paper a week later. So this was in Erlanger, Kentucky. So racism, it still lingers. It's just it, you think the early 2000s, like wow, we should be past that. Discrimination, we should be past that. That's just in the past, as some people say. No, there are people carried in their spirit to this day. There are people out there that carry that prejudiced spirit. And this is the whole point of me making this one, is to make a video, to continue to make this video, because people need to understand what America is really about. The hidden part that they're trying to scrub away. Even here in Columbus, God had to remind me of a conversation I had with my mentor Pauline. She's an older woman, and she's probably I think she's pretty close to 70, if not 70. When she was a little girl here in Columbus, Ohio, there was a good part of time when black people had their own, they lived next to Italians and on the east side of Columbus, and they think that there was Italian neighbors, and the Jewish people were kind of really close with them. But and then she said that I think it's Main Street. I think that's Main Street where the theater is at, the Lincoln Theater, and they would have all the acts come from all over the country come. Back during the late 60s or 50s and 60s, they would come through Columbus. Black talent would come through here. And she told me how they would come here first, and people come from all the well-known would come through here and do their thing. But during that time, when she was a little girl, she was saying how right downtown near the Lazarus building, she said that when you were an African American black person and you were little, you can get your ice cream, but you had to walk around the building to buy it, and I think walk out somehow. And so I was like, wow, this happened here in Columbus. This happened out here. I'm hearing about Mississippi. I'm hearing about some parts of, certain areas. Like, yeah, but segregation was up here in Ohio. And it probably was in my little area where origins from Youngstown. They probably got some stories. I wanted to have to probably ask some people where was the segregation and separation there. But when she told me that, being a mentor, me and the Lord, she told me that one of his stories when she was a little girl, that when she was her father would take her downtown Columbus, they would get the ice cream, but the black people would have to go and get the ice cream and walk around the area of downtown. This is downtown Columbus, Ohio. And I was like, whoa, this is and then now this is gonna get down. I'm gonna tell you how one time I met a young lady, another part of time I met a young lady, and she was a white female with a biracial daughter. She stayed with her relatives in Lancaster, Ohio, about a half hour from Columbus. Oh, let me tell you about Lancaster, Ohio, for what my first experience. So I go to her. Let me start with this. I go up to her. We meet, and after we kind of, get intimate, at the hotel, and then later she told me to follow her back to her place. And then when I seen her daughter and her relatives, I go up and I was about to say hi. They walked past me like I was a ghost. I'm like, okay, this is like they was engaging. They didn't say, hey, this is my friend or anything. They just kept on walked past like I was nothing. Uh, after that we kind of went our ways. The second time in Lancaster, Ohio, was I used to work for this transportation company, and the lady, when her boyfriend would come down, she had a black boyfriend that come down here from New York, and I don't know what happened, but they gave her some uncomfortable looks down there in Lancaster, Ohio, and she couldn't, her boyfriend. I don't think he didn't want to come back to that, come back to her, see her again. Yeah, she couldn't figure out why. So as she telling me the story, I said, when she mentioned that he was black, I said, oh, that's what happened. Then I've had a couple white people tell me about Lancaster, Ohio. One incident was one man told me that when he was locked up, heard through the grapevine, that if they see black people in Lancaster, Ohio, they would purposely set them up. White dude told me this stuff. Another white dude told me, said, if a black dude and a white dude was coming through Lancaster, they automatically think they're doing drugs. They say the sheriff would think you're doing drugs. You're bringing drug activity down here. This came from some white people. Then one thing that confirmed what Pauline told me about Lancaster was this one white guy I picked up from the transportation company. Picked him up at his spot. So I asked him how Lancaster. I was asking people how's Lancaster. And I mean, I didn't go into the racial topic. They brought it to me. I never, liked to talk about this stuff, but they brought it to me. So, one of them get kind of sarcastic, and he said, do you know where you at? I said, no. He said, man, Lancaster's the head of the KKK. I said, what? Pauline said the same thing. Because she had co-workers, she had people that she knew worked in Lancaster, Ohio. That they were Klansmen in Lancaster, Ohio. The white dude said the same thing. Told me it was Klansmen in Lancaster, Ohio. I said, wow, that's crazy. And then there was another time when I was doing a transportation lady. This woman was outside of Circleville. It's a little town called Tarleton, Ohio. And I go pick her up, and she was a really friendly lady, nice lady. She lived out in a little rural town out there. And down the street, there's a store that she said that she used to go to, but she don't go there no more. Because one time when she sent her biracial child down there, the owner got real nasty at her biracial child. So, when I tell you, Ohio has some racial pockets. You may see black people when you come through Circleville, Columbus, Lancaster, but it don't mean that it's always peaches and roses with some areas. They probably got used to dealing with them out there right now. But yeah, that's some parts of Ohio that this is and I used to drive transportation. And I don't know if I ever tell you about the story about the one time I picked up the young lady in New Somerset, I think it was Lexington or New Somerset, right between these little towns out here. And I was, because her transportation and her husband and her boyfriends, they laid out in a trailer park house out there. I think it was a house or a trailer park. And it's out there in outskirts of Zanesville, Ohio. So I think I took her. We would pick them up. We would drive. I'd drive from Columbus out down there in the company van, pick them out, and take them to the surrounding counties. The next county, I think that's, I forgot what county that is out there. But one time we was having a conversation in the car, and she said her husband couldn't get the car to start. And I said, "Oh wow, it was somewhat to start." She said, "Yeah, he had to do something." And guess what's the terminology? He had to nigger rig it. Not rig it, not just jimmy it, not rig it, nigger rig it. When I tell you, white people use certain terminologies, that's it. That's how I learned it. Not rig it. You had to rig something. They had to put the N word on it. Yeah. What other kind of incident I can tell you? Racial incidents. That was out down there in Ohio. That's why I've seen it and heard it. And that's why when I've been around those folks, I know them inside out. Know what they say, know how they sarcastically say it. And they just used to saying it because they've been around their friends talk like that. And they subconsciously say it without even thinking nothing twice about it. You say, hey, that's not, hey, chill out with that stuff, man. Brothers and sisters, when I say we on their mind, they on their mind. It's so bad that they came up with terminology of it, of some disgust. That's something that's just something to roll off the tongue. It ain't like we say a cuss word, whatever, and that's it. No, sometimes it comes with a racial intentation of it because of what someone around them used that word. But yeah, this was kind of people that I've seen, I've been around, that I know just for a second that we have that's why we have a division among people, and this is why some black people choose to be separate when they hear a story with what I'm telling you. And that's why, and thank God someone probably never heard someone talk like this, because they wouldn't be too friendly after hearing some stuff like that. It would have been like words, but luckily, God gave me the wisdom and grace to kind of like cut them people out and just ignore it, because that's just a plain ignorance of it. The reason why we share this topic because it's like when you disregard people's experiences, personal experiences, and what is currently going through right now, it's like you saying that they almost like they don't have no feelings. Why are they complaining? Why is it they bringing up the past? Why are they continuing to bring these topics up? Because sometimes when you're trying to not think about something, there's somebody going to remind you of it in a certain type of way through their actions. And that's why people want to separate. It's a racial battle fatigue. It could be on the job. It could be where you live. It could be where you go to school at. In the case when I mentioned in the previous video, we're supposed to be in worship. So that's why, otherwise some people choose to worship in different churches, black churches, white churches, separate. Because you can't have people, some people don't have sense enough. They think the God like them is just going to accept the God that look like them. Because they've been conditioned, because of TV, when they show the old shows, the Ten Commandments, people looking like them, the book stories, people looking like them, the image, the people looking like them, and they just a victim to them, but they don't look at the images as in the Bible. They look at the images of what the man took and interpreted, what his interpretation of on TV. Because if they did, even though the dark bronze one that described in Revelation loves all people, even the people resemble dark burnt bronzes is the very people that they disdain and have animosity and hatred for. Isn't that something? And so I've seen it happen in ways. And so after a while, you wonder why do some black people feel like that? Because a lot of black people can take what I've been through. And when I know some white people inside out, that's a part of them inside out, away from black people, away from other people that they use terminologies to describe other groups of people. And it's just comfortable because no one don't say anything and no one don't disassociate with them or correct them and say, hey, I'm not associating with you no more because you're completely ignorant. There are some people, but it's far in between for few. Because like you have the agreement what I think and what I say, and what my belief is your belief because we share the appearance of what's on the skin. So they think all white people they come across can use this terminology, this singular, and some of them don't know on a personal basis. And some white people choose to ignore other white people that do. They just go along with you just blowing off some steam, blah, 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 blah. And then they let it go. Then someone brings something up again. Until they find out one day they bring the black friend or the other friend into existence. Now they have to change up their personality. But that devil inside them that wants to come out and say something. Maybe when they get in the heat of anger or when they're full of alcohol. Or in an emotional state. Yeah. See, it goes to that level. And I've been subjected to some cruel things throughout my life. And part of it was my fault. I didn't, when I was younger, I didn't understand. I kind of understood, but I was maybe I was some kind of hypnosis that I'm trying to think that, yeah, he's my friend, and maybe it was a self-esteem thing. But these people that I thought was my friends, who were white, they was insecure. They were the kind of people that didn't really have interaction with other cultures, and none of them have common sense. You think that you don't share that pain, you don't have that kind of mindset toward other people, but it's like they treat you like that movie when Richard Pryor like a toy, and that's all they see you as, something to please the entertainment. Some people that with that mindset. Like I said, I mentioned one time I had been played a cruel joke on me with someone I thought was our friend. Came to me, him and his buddies came in over his house. They dressed like Klansmen as a joke to see what kind of response he was going to get out of me. The neighbors were shocked. And it was hurting like a dumbass. I sat there and kind of geeked it off. I was dumb and young. But I'm going to show you how cruel they are. Like, do you know that? And so what makes you would do something like that? Something deep rooted. Let's see how James responds. We don't dress as Klans member. That's a joke. Yeah. Well, the neighbors didn't think it was funny, and I didn't think it was really cheesy either. And I kind of make a mistake and kind of laughed it off. But after that, I didn't look at Steve the same way. What kind of people he associated with. That was his name. That's his buddy. His buddy was Paul, and I forgot who the other guy was. I'm telling you how some people do it. They would play a practical joke like that. just to get a rise out of somebody when you're the only black friend. Yeah, but I didn't. But God made me strong over that. So you understand why we feel the way we do. Yeah, they just think it's a joke, man. And we were young at the time, what, 19, 20 years old. You know, and I wasn't only black in the neighborhood. And I was just trying to be that friend of Steve's. Because John, my friend John, was his friend. He was black. So I didn't think he didn't think much of it. But yeah, he was, yeah. But you know, but they didn't do that in front of John. They did when John was away in the service. They did. I caught the brunt of it. Let's just say I never saw Steve again. I seen him on Facebook recently. He lost some weight and family, but I never talked to that family again. So this is one of my dealings with that. And another time, yeah, I've heard, you know, there have been some people that they down with black people. Their friends, you their black friend, then they do some stuff like that. That's the extreme part of it. Then the racial jokes, that's another part of it. Just someone to do that. So when black people hear stories like this, they would say that's why. Because you know, when it comes to black people and a white person's in our presence, we don't do that. We don't. You could be the only white woman, black woman among black women. You can be a white guy among black. They ain't gonna do you like that. They ain't gonna start cracking jokes. They ain't gonna start making innuendos. They're gonna use racial terms. Some white dudes will tell you that have been around mostly black people. Never do something like that. Never. Been at the dinner table. Never. Been in a household where there was the only white dude. Never. I've never seen a racial. Never seen them say act some ignorant, stupid to their white counterpart. Never come from black people. Never. I have never seen that. I don't care you Hispanic, Asian. You come around black people, you get respect. And if someone do top the fool, he's gonna get stopped, or she gonna get stopped right there and there. That's a fact. That's between us and other people. So we have respect for other people among each other. We might clown on each other once in a while. You know, we might kind of pick at you in love, but we're not picking at you to make you denigrate you because you're white. We're not going to make up racial jokes because you're white. That's why I said I wasn't showing this stuff. This is the truth. I'm telling you, this is the reason why some people they say, man, well, that's why some black people don't trust us. Yeah, after what I just put out there, and someone heard what I've been through, yeah, they're gonna say no. I don't want to deal with them. I don't deal with white people. And you got some black people like that. Well, what I'm telling you now, because somebody probably said this to somebody and one of them. Sometimes maybe someone have never been. Some white person better not, because maybe they give them that kind of vibe like, no, don't come to me with that foolishness. But to the ones that do, the ones that let the other ones, the ones who know in the world, that's what it comes down to. I think it's a healing, and the reason why I think I did this video just so let other black people know you ain't the only one that been through this. You ain't the only one, or any other group of people. You ain't been through this with other people. I know what it's like to be the only one among them. And when they feel comfortable. Not, I mean, majority of times, some people don't even think about that. But even now and then, they come across somebody that's really close to them, and here you are, ready to see something different, and now they got to figure out to adjust their reality because everything looked like them till the black guy come in the room, or the Hispanic or whatever guy come in the room. Now they got to think out something what to do, and they try to break the atmosphere by telling some jokes. But it's in the same window. You can tell when someone's saying something from experience and someone's just directly saying something out of just something that's deep in their heart. That they've been wanting to say it. And I didn't. When I was younger, you call me in, we go toe. That in the junior high school. But you get older, you just like, okay. That don't apply to you. Because anyway, they're acting ignorant and shiftless by using that word. That's what it is. But that's the reason why some people choose to be among themselves. And so you see in the segment people online saying, "We done." On TikTok, YouTube, and say, "No, we don't." And I know some people kind of, "I'm not like that." I said, they made up their mind because someone probably that they know been through what I'm telling you right now. And then they want to separate themselves. They choose to separate themselves. And because you imagine, going through something like that, and then when the people that's doing it, they see that the person is doing it, they say, well, he was just, they make up excuse for him. Because they share the same skin color. They're trying to make excuse for him. They don't want to do what's righteousness by human extent, but we gravitate to the people who we share a culture or a complexion of skin, texture of hair, heritage with. That's the truth. That's the human nature of what we do. And then you feed into the stereotype and everything. But yeah, that's what that's been my experiences with that. And you could go through a battle, and it does weigh on you at some point. And sometimes you got to go back around your people to get lifted back up again. And then you have to reprogram to see your people as human beings again. People that look like yourself, because you've been so conditioned, like some of these people have been conditioned to look down on their people. Because maybe someone mocked them, made fun of them, and so they feel like they go to another community and feel comfortable. Only that to get out there, they get mocked too. It's not, and that's what I was saying about Anton Daniels and different. It's not good to turn on your people, because even though you down with your people, but your people like you is going to pay the price. Because when you go around, they're going to shun you. They're going to disengage from you. Even though you have your bad experience with people. Like I said, I've had bad experience with my own people too. People laughed, and there was some people that didn't even acknowledge me. I was at the Black Expo or whatever, but it's okay. But sometimes it's a personality issue. But when it gets to the point that, it's a color issue, sad. Some people are just leery by strangers. Sometimes they ain't got nothing to do with color. It's just that sometimes that's their personality. But you don't turn on your black people. Because I'm telling you, you might have one good friend out there, one truthful, faithful white friend. But the 99 rest of them may not be friendly. The 99 is culturally deficient. They're not used to it. They're used to their way of life. They're used to what that make them feel comfortable in their surroundings, and that's the truth. Some people don't want to interact with other cultures. That's the truth, and they give off the vibes. They don't mind dealing with one person, one culture, but they do 1, 2, 3, and no. They're not trying to learn and elevate themselves to know other people. We have to come to face the fact that that's how some people in America are. They're stuck in their surroundings, in their ways, and that's the way it is. Even when it comes to down to the appearance of a person's complexion. Sad, isn't it? But it is the reality that we live around. And they push this on from generation after generation. And maybe some people in the next generation try to break away from that. But some don't. I say this real not out of anger, hatred, or anything. But just to be awareness of it. That's why I made this video. Because other people count too. God loves all people. He truly loves all people and sees all equal as the same. Not on a totem pole, not on a class or by name, by association. God sees us as He goes to the least of the least, the Most High, through His Son Jesus Christ's name. Too bad people can't figure that out. That you don't have to do that to treat another human being like that. And maybe the person that you're doing it was there to cross your path for a reason. Not to be mocked them because you can't understand their language, their culture, their skin, or anything else. They come through you for a reason. If God made the human race in heaven, why can't we learn to get along on earth? Well, one day we're going to be in heaven. Well, who you choose to have in heaven? From all walks of life. No matter what texture of their hair, the color of their skin, what position in the earth they was at. And if you die with that kind of narcissistic spirit, nasty spirit to other people, you may not get to heaven. That goes for anybody. Because when you leave this earthly body, that's it. So you better get used to people down here. That goes for anybody that come across to hear this video. There's no class in certain class in heaven. Your name don't mean nothing. What you do, how charming, whatever your personality was, whatever occupation, how much money you make, what part of the neighborhood, what you drive, what you wear, it don't mean nothing when you stand before the Lord. Because you might think you was the highest down here, but you might be the least when you get up there in heaven. Never judge somebody in that standards, because you might be judged by him. So that, sometimes I had to learn to forgive and pray for those people, because if they think they're going to all white heaven, they got another thing coming. If they think they're just going to be around these people, if they didn't live their life right and God, He might forgive, but He don't forget on certain things. He might have made on that person to forgive, work on them to forgive, so He can deal with that person and show them their errors of their ways. That's all. That's what the message is. And even though somebody would try to clean up your legacy, no one did clean up Hitler's legacy. See where he's at. Because he sure ain't in heaven. And then people like him. Evil, they did evil. So where you think they're at? Out of hatred. Disguise and disguise and so-called in their mind trying to do harm to other people, to subjugate, to rise above. Every man have been through that. Never made it, never had a pleasant ending. A woman never had a pleasant ending. Margaret Sanger. She didn't have a pleasant ending. What she done? That inspired even the Klan to do what they did. Her inspiration came from Hitler. I think he inspired, and that's what he did to the people that up in Auschwitz. This is how deep hatred goes. Disdain for people who never did anything to you. Can't adjust your reality. But when you lay on with the people that carry the spirit of disdain for another people because it's there, disdain another before they call her, disdain because you're going to stand before the Lord one day. And He's going to see what going to have to make a decision. Do you rest for eternity? Because you're going to leave this earthly body. Whatever your status, your class, your people, they're going to answer to Him. You'll see all kinds of people up there in heaven if you make it to heaven. If you decide to enter in. This is for you white nationalists and all you other people. You're not going to be white for so long. You're not going to go to a white paradise. But white people and white angels and white it's not going to be like what you see on the Jehovah's Witnesses banners, whatever, or on the Mormon banners. You're not going to see that. Think about your eternity. If you're a white person with that mindset, or any person with that mindset, you think of low class, and I just can't adjust my reality around other people. Oh, you better adjust it. Whenever your time's up, whenever your body shuts down, you better change your mindset. You don't, it ain't gonna be a pretty ending. And even if someone that had been a hatred towards other race that looked like me, it'd be the same way. I ain't got time to hate nobody. Just like I just think I'm better than disdain for somebody. What that look like? Think I'm better than somebody. Even if I was blessed with with a ton of money and recognition, it wouldn't change me. Because I know what it's like to be invisible. I'm on people that's visible. And it used to bother me, but now it don't bother me no more. Because it rolls off like water off a duck's back. Some people it bothered. Some people took it to the grave. It ain't gonna do that to me. Because what these people don't know, I met the resurrection. The day before my father died, I met the resurrection. In the book of Revelation. So it doesn't matter what your status is in the earth when you meet the ultimate one, who's the resurrection of life. You wouldn't think, you look at a person like myself, I wouldn't. Who are you? You might say, I'm nobody. He selected me. And I'm not bragging around here somebody thinking that I'm better than anybody else. I stay humble before Him. I ain't the handsomest man. I may not be the richest man. But I'm something that but I had the pleasure to stand before Him before the trials of my life came upon me. That's who I am. Sometimes the people you overlook, whether like it was the day like the homeless man was out there. I may never see him again. I may see him to eternity. But just acknowledge him because he was invisible. He was dirty and scrubby. But as a human being, regardless of his skin, he was loved by God. Some people are not loved by God in this world. They die out. Too bad some people don't understand that because they don't fit in that category. They don't fit in their status in their class. And frankly, I'm to the point I don't care. I'm glad I don't fit. I don't want to be in your status or your class if it means you got to have an attitude like that. I've seen pastors act like that. I've seen individuals act like that. You ain't above me. Brother, only you knew. Only you knew who I was. What I've come across in my life. I may not look like I'm a man with half his teeth going out of his mouth, but I tell you one thing, I've been through so much you would be begun to understand what I've countered. See, the ones that go through the war and go through the pain gets the most. That's the one he comes to. When death is about to come take them out, Jesus is the one to bring the life back into them. Ain't the word, and what those people say, ain't the heaven or hell that a person, I've been mocked and scoffed all my life. It's the reason why I can honestly say I ain't ashamed of Jesus Christ. I'm not ashamed of him. Use his name because it was him that rose me out of my sins. It was him that if I make it to the top, it would be only him to the Heavenly Father. Not you, not your status, not your worldly status. You know, it's like the saying goes, we all pilgrims on a journey, and eventually it's going to come to an end. If I can make it into the gates of heaven, that's the reward. And repent, and when I renounce, repent on this earth, and repent from my ways, because I want to dwell forever. Because this life, it's a cold world down here. You see the coldness in people. That's what matters. So your status, your class, what you look at me, how you think about me, the way I dress, whatever. I'm gonna look like I am nothing. Just like that homeless man. But you don't understand. Who came across? The one is to come. Watch who you snub. Watch who you think you look down upon. Watch who you ignore. Don't look out for the bigwig. Look out for the person that. Don't look out for the president of the company. Look at the janitor. That's for everybody for this message. Don't look at somebody as a high position because they're popular on TV or on social media. You should hear the one who God sees. That's the one that got the favor. Yet about to manifest. And stay humble. And will rise up under Christ. Not by man's world. Not by the man's validation. That's the one that's going to rise. And I believe I'm one of the ones that's going to rise. You see. That's the real man in God. These other men, these other people, they're fake. They ain't been through nothing. They ain't been through the storms. Because see, the storms of life will humble you. When you see death, it will humble you. When you see sickness, it will humble you. When you see somebody at the edge of their life, it'll humble you. When you see someone, when you went out there with someone's ministry and you see the need of the people, it will humble you. That's why I couldn't ignore that man that sat down in front of that stool among all those people going into the Black Expo. Anyway, that's the lesson for that's the lesson for today. The lesson is, don't ignore somebody. Don't hate nobody. Because you never know when your time's up. And what you're going to do when you stand before the Father. when you come to the end of your life. Let go of it. Get along with one another. Accept one another. Because the very person you meet may be the very person Jesus might bring to heaven. Take care. Be blessed.